The nature of reality. Understanding Alchemy 101. In becoming the initiate, we learn to become the empty vehicle, the hollow bone through which the God force expresses. Therefore, we become servants unto the supreme cause, which is the Christos. There we realize our true cosmic purpose and destiny, to consume the unknown. We are excited when we learn and employ new knowledge and technology. Humans prosper in the growing cycle. They degenerate and fall into decadence in the accomplishment or down cycle. It is a pattern that repeats itself in every accounting of the history of any civilization. Think about it. Reason it out. We are voyagers upon the light, learning the laws of creation. This we do so that we can serve the purpose of the God force that is within each and every one of us. For the God force has no other purpose but to perpetuate and to fulfill itself. From this basic principle, all we call life is created as pure thought potentiality. The God force can be no secular thing, for to elect to be one or the other is a form of judgment. The moment that the God force judged, it would no longer be. Therefore, it would be ludicrous to think that the God force would express only through a specific gender or a specific elemental species. For the God force is all things and more. Likewise, the Creator can neither be good or bad. For in the moment that God would either be good or bad, judgment is born. Aha, aho, makes sense to moi. In being the supreme elemental force of all that is, in that moment of judgment, all that is would cease to be. Life as we know it, would end. You could say that the God force is lawless, for there is no fixed rules the God force follows, only divine principles. Rules create form and structure. The God force is formless. Hence, the essence of our being is also without form, and cannot be contained in the rigidity of dogmatic thoughts. For in the moment our thought realizes itself, thought changes, like father, like child. God, flip that around, you got dog, is the infinite unknown that we call the void. Space itself, as we conceive it, is the river upon which the thought of God supreme travels through the millenniums of universal existence. And like a river, it has its sounds and nature to be understood. It is ever-changing, and thus remains the constant form of which all that is springs forth into being. The God force cannot be measured in terms of light and dark, for in truth there is no darkness. There is only God and God's dogs. And what are we, you might ask? See, what are we? What are we? We are the expression of God manifest on the physical plane. We came from God, love. We could replace God with love. Because we came from the thought of God, love. We were born of the light and remain the light into our foreverness ad infinitum. We, as particles of light, travel through divine thought and manifest upon the various planes of reality as thought evolving. We are eternal lights expanding into every part of the universe. When we pass this plane, we again return to the thought, the supreme force, the supreme source, the force source. Thus, the cycle continues in its forever process of God realizing itself through creation. It is endless, for God and love is unlimited. The process called creation is the divine gift of the source, initiated unto the children of God, children of the Son, we that are the Christos. For creation is but a thought of itself in a constant exploration of its own potential, always seeking itself, moving like a serpentine energy through the cosmos. Evolution and growth is presently realized through one's ability to create reality. Hence, the time-space continuum is perpetuated so that we can identify with that essence that we are. Experience is our touching stone, our remembrance of ourselves. The thoughts of our creation reach out into the cosmos through the planes of realized experience. The divine thought seeks us with full passion, just as in the end of each cycle of our own creation, we return to Source itself. It is called valued life, all things seen and unseen, all things potentially unrealized and realized are born of God, love. All is divine, for all is a form of God's purpose, and born of, here we go, like I said, born of love in a state of perfection unto the thought of God. The God force is eternal and touches us through breath. The breath of God manifests always into perpetual life. It can and will transform, but it can never end. Thus, God, as we perceive it, is egoless. For we can know not the true nature of ego until we are no longer altered ego. We have become the reflection of the light, believing that of itself, it is the light. Thus we walk in darkness, for the true light is within, not without. We have created a reverse polarity in our manufactured state of consciousness. God is the purifier. I will say, love is the purifier. To perceive that the source of all that is would judge is not based upon the laws of the Supreme Being. It is based upon the laws of man. Man in his state of limitation, living in an adopted state of reality, what could also be termed as an altered state of isness. What we have perceived through limitation as ego is in fact altered ego. The ravens agree. God itself is pure, unaltered ego. I am that I am. Man, in his floundering, has perceived himself to be, air quoting, because, end of air quote. But there is no because. There is only isness. This then is the perpetual state of God, isness, because is the reaction to and not the cause of. The manifestation of the miraculous is seemingly unknown to most of us, simply because we deem it so. But we deem it to be beyond our reach. It is out there instead of in here. And because we are living in denial of the Supreme Being as being a part of us, it is thus Maya, an illusion. For God is all that is, because, air quoting the because, is born of judgment. In this state of judgment, as most of us are, we have separated ourselves from the Supreme Being. Thus, we are in denial, and being so, we negate our own creations. We are lost in this state of illusion from which we perpetuate our existence through pain and through limitation. The cause is that our dream creation process remains unrealized. We have, as humanity, manatee, like a manatee, allowed ourselves to fall into patterns of behavior, whereby we are creating the nature of our reality from an incomplete perception of the universe, thus manifesting reality in conflict with its true nature and in conflict with ourselves. Through this process, we have become the reaction to, rather than the supreme cause of. In our altered state of reality, we perceive the source of life as being external rather than internal. Thus, we are trying to create from a portion rather than from the whole. We are the participants in all that is, co-creators in the game of life. In most cases, what we have come to call miracles are simply the experience or witnessing of something we do not yet understand. This is because, in most cases, we do not yet possess the knowledge of what is making things occur. We no longer understand the Kriya, K-R-Y-A-H. The reasons why we do not have this knowledge are simple. There no longer exists the great schools of life. Oh, we're bringing them back. We are not taught the divine principles of life in our present educational institutions. Don't we know that's true? That is true. Look anywhere in the educational structures of Western society. It becomes evident very quickly that we are not being taught the fundamentals of the life force and how universal law applies to our everyday life. Thus, we have become graceless and stiff in our expression of self. We need psychiatrists to tell us who we are because we have lost touch with ourselves and our connections to Source have been broken. Well, that hit home. We are being bred to become little more than feed for the corporate machine that in the end devours us and cannot allow us to have our own individual expression. Air quoting. Everyone is expendable and no one has a real friend. End of air quote. That couldn't be further from the truth. That is, unless we allow it to be. In our In our neoteric society, we are becoming almost completely reliant upon the use of technology to solve our problems. We continually seek the answer to a situation by going outside of ourselves. For the most part, the majority of the people working with modern technology do not have the slightest grasp of how or why anything works in the first place. They are operating in a space of robotic consciousness. Our neoteric society is built upon the premise of logic, rationality, and the explanation of things through intellectual mind. Everything is linear. Our thought processes go from point A to point B without question. Like a horse with blinders. That's a very dangerous thing, by the way. A horse with blinders. The universe is spherical, as is time, as is the true nature of our spirit. Our spirit self is not linear. Ooh, ravens. Linear thinking is two-dimensional, as is intellectual mind. There is something beyond mind called consciousness, and beyond consciousness is awareness. The explanation of this phenomenon is easy. For example, let us suppose you are involved in some sort of trauma. Whoop, been there a few times. Say, for instance here, an automobile accident. You suddenly awaken in a hospital room. You know that you are in a hospital, but you do not know why or how you got there. Further, you are unaware of what is going on, or why these strange beings with masks are hovering over you. That's trippy. At this point, you have come back into third-dimensional consciousness. You are not yet in possession of your awareness. Awareness occurs when you remember what event or events brought you to the hospital room. Consciousness becomes utilized. This activation of consciousness, where it transmutes into awareness, gives us the ability to achieve action. You could say that life, backwards file, is a verb and not a noun. For indeed it is great truth. What is occurring around us in the experience we call life is the result of awareness activating consciousness. The entire nature of our perceived reality is a result of this process. These ancient laws we are talking about are infinite and therefore imperishable. The elements that are constricted to this temporal plane have little effect upon them. So, universal law that was in effect 50,000 years ago is just as applicable today as it was then. Ooh, I love this. What Merlin accessed and drew upon can be utilized today. The understanding of this mystery is achieved by opening our mind, kiss the mind, to the realities of metaphysical truth. We then enter the world of quantum reality through right use of will. We quite literally become contemporary alchemists. The problem, for the most part, is that even though these very basic principles of Kriya exist, we are not aware of them and take little responsibility for our actions and words. We have little understanding, if any, of the universal laws of cause and effect. We feel we are hapless victims of chance and circumstance. We are caught up in the results. We are unaware that reality is being manifested unconsciously and constantly by our thoughts. Creation is a natural law that is occurring with or without our conscious participation. All hands on deck, get involved. Come on, fam. Global fam. It is akin to breathing. We never stop to wonder why or how it occurs, do we? Therefore, one could say most have fallen asleep at the wheel or hit the snooze button. Oh, ravens, it's nighttime, they're going to sleep. There is a limitless source of divine power that is available to all of us. It is waiting there at our total disposal this very moment. We just have to learn how to tap into it. Dang. Oh, sister and brother, here they go. That is the purpose of this revealing of the Kriya, to show you how that can be achieved. Not in some distant future, not in a nebulous tomorrow, but right now. These simple understandings can completely alter your life if you are ready to accept the responsibility of reclaiming and owning your own divine power. Take your power back. This was an excerpt from another manuscript written by Robert Ghost Wolf, titled Through the Eye of the Shaman. Oh.